Some of the smartest people you will ever meet eventually disappear without warning. No dramatic goodbye. No emotional explanation. No desperate attempt to be understood. They simply become silent and leave quietly. Most people never understand why emotionally intelligent individuals do this, because emotionally reactive people see silence as weakness. They believe disappearing quietly means someone gave up, became cold, or lost confidence. But psychologically, the truth is completely different. Emotionally intelligent people disappear quietly because they eventually realize something painful about human behavior. Not every person deserves access to their energy. And once someone truly understands the value of emotional peace, they stop wasting themselves on chaos, attention-seeking behavior, meaningless validation, and emotionally exhausting environments. That realization changes everything. Most people stay emotionally attached to environments that slowly destroy their peace because they fear loneliness more than emotional exhaustion. They remain around people who drain them mentally, around conversations that lead nowhere, around constant negativity, manipulation, insecurity, and emotional instability. And over time, this slowly weakens their mental clarity without them even realizing it. But emotionally intelligent individuals eventually notice the pattern. They notice how certain people affect their energy, how certain environments increase emotional stress, how constant exposure to chaos slowly destroys focus, discipline, and inner peace. And once they become aware of this, they begin pulling away silently. Not because they hate people, but because they finally understand themselves. If you enjoy content about emotional intelligence, psychological strength, human behavior, and silent discipline, subscribe to Psychology of Silence and leave a like on this video. The people who master silence often understand life at a level most people never reach. Most emotionally reactive individuals cannot understand why calm people suddenly disappear, because emotionally reactive people depend heavily on external stimulation. They constantly need attention, conversation, emotional drama, validation, or social activity to feel mentally occupied. Silence feels uncomfortable to them because silence forces self-awareness. But emotionally intelligent people slowly become comfortable alone. And that comfort changes their entire psychology. The more emotionally aware someone becomes, the more sensitive they become to emotional chaos. Loud personalities begin feeling exhausting instead of impressive. Constant negativity begins feeling heavy instead of normal. Fake relationships become obvious. Forced conversations become obvious. Emotional manipulation becomes obvious. And once someone sees these patterns clearly enough, pretending becomes impossible. That is why emotionally intelligent people rarely announce their departure emotionally. They do not argue endlessly. They do not beg to be understood. They do not create dramatic exits for attention. They simply reduce access quietly because they understand that peace is more valuable than emotional performance. Most people expose themselves emotionally whenever they feel disconnected. They seek reassurance immediately, attention immediately, validation immediately. But emotionally intelligent individuals process things internally first. They observe before reacting, think before speaking, and often, by the time others notice their silence, emotionally, they already left long ago. Because emotionally intelligent people understand something dangerous. Not everyone grows with you. Some people only understand the version of you that constantly explains itself, constantly reacts emotionally, constantly tolerates disrespect, or constantly sacrifices peace to maintain connection. But once someone begins emotionally evolving, many relationships naturally begin feeling different. And that difference creates distance. The emotionally intelligent person begins speaking less, observing more, protecting their energy more carefully. Meanwhile, emotionally reactive individuals often mistake this emotional discipline for arrogance, coldness, or disinterest because they cannot understand calmness that does not seek constant validation externally. But the truth is much deeper than that. Emotionally intelligent people disappear quietly because they stop feeling emotionally obligated to remain in environments that destroy their inner peace. They realize that constantly explaining themselves drains energy. Constantly defending themselves drains energy. Constantly trying to emotionally carry unstable people drains energy. And eventually, protecting peace becomes more important than protecting access. That is when silence begins replacing unnecessary communication. That is when distance begins replacing emotional chaos. And that is when emotionally intelligent individuals begin transforming completely. Most people never realize how emotionally exhausting constant access can become. The more emotionally intelligent someone grows, the more they begin understanding that unlimited access to their time, energy, emotions, and attention slowly destroys mental clarity. That is why emotionally aware individuals become more selective over time. Not because they think they are better than everyone else, but because they finally understand how deeply environments affect the mind. Every conversation affects energy. Every relationship affects focus. Every emotional interaction leaves psychological residue. And emotionally intelligent people begin noticing this more than others. They notice how some individuals only contact them when they need emotional reassurance. They notice how certain environments constantly create stress, negativity, drama, or emotional instability. They notice how some people drain peace simply through their presence because their energy is built entirely around chaos, insecurity, or emotional dependence. Most people ignore these patterns because they fear separation emotionally. They tolerate environments that destroy their peace because they fear being misunderstood, abandoned, judged, or alone. But emotionally intelligent individuals eventually reach a point where protecting inner peace becomes more important than maintaining every connection. And once that shift happens internally, silence begins naturally. Not forced silence. Not manipulative silence. Intentional silence. The kind of silence that comes from emotional awareness. The kind that appears when someone no longer feels the need to explain themselves constantly. Because emotionally intelligent people slowly realize that many individuals do not actually listen to understand. They listen emotionally. They listen through ego, insecurity, assumptions, and emotional projection. And once someone understands this deeply enough, they stop wasting energy trying to emotionally convince everyone around them. That is why emotionally intelligent people often disappear quietly instead of creating dramatic exits. Drama requires emotional investment. And emotionally aware individuals stop investing emotional energy into situations that no longer align with their peace. They understand that not every battle deserves attention. Not every misunderstanding deserves explanation. Not every relationship deserves unlimited access forever. This level of awareness changes behavior completely. Emotionally intelligent individuals become quieter, more observant, more private. They stop exposing every thought emotionally. Stop seeking validation publicly. Stop reacting impulsively to every situation around them. And because they no longer need constant emotional stimulation, they become far more comfortable walking away silently from environments that no longer feel healthy internally. Most emotionally reactive people cannot understand this mindset because emotionally reactive people fear silence deeply. Silence forces introspection. It forces self-awareness. It removes distraction. That is why many individuals constantly surround themselves with noise, people, attention, and stimulation. They are trying to escape themselves internally. But emotionally intelligent individuals stop running from themselves. And once someone becomes comfortable alone, they become far more difficult to emotionally manipulate. Fear of loneliness loses power. Fear of rejection loses power. Fear of being misunderstood loses power. Because their emotional stability no longer depends entirely on external validation. That is why emotionally intelligent people often seem distant over time. Not emotionally empty, not emotionless, but more careful with access. They understand that peace is difficult to protect in emotionally chaotic environments. And after experiencing enough emotional exhaustion, they begin valuing stillness differently from everyone else. Stillness becomes healing. Silence becomes clarity. Distance becomes protection. Most people only recognize physical exhaustion, but emotionally intelligent individuals recognize emotional exhaustion too. The exhaustion created by fake conversations, emotional manipulation, constant negativity, forced social performance, and environments that slowly drain mental energy every single day. And once someone becomes aware of how expensive emotional chaos truly is, their priorities begin changing permanently. They stop needing to attend everything, stop needing to respond immediately, stop needing to explain every decision emotionally. Instead, they begin protecting themselves internally in silence. This is why emotionally intelligent individuals often become difficult to fully understand socially. They no longer operate from emotional impulsiveness. Their decisions become intentional instead of reactive. They begin asking themselves important questions most people avoid completely. Does this environment protect my peace? Does this relationship strengthen my mind? Does this conversation deserve my emotional energy? And once someone starts thinking this way consistently, many connections naturally begin fading. Not because emotionally intelligent people hate others, but because awareness changes tolerance. Things they once accepted emotionally begin feeling heavy. Things they once ignored become impossible to overlook, and behaviors they once tolerated begin disturbing their inner peace. That is when emotionally intelligent people stop forcing connections that no longer feel genuine. They stop emotionally chasing people who drain them mentally. Stop trying to save relationships built entirely on emotional imbalance. Instead, they quietly redirect their energy toward growth, discipline, focus, and peace. And often, people only notice their absence after the silence becomes permanent. And that silence usually confuses people the most. Because emotionally reactive individuals expect explanations. They expect emotional closure. They expect dramatic reactions, emotional conversations, or visible frustration. But emotionally intelligent people often leave emotionally long before they leave physically. By the time they become distant externally, internally they have already spent weeks, months, sometimes even years observing patterns quietly. They notice repeated disrespect, repeated emotional instability, repeated manipulation, repeated negativity, and eventually, they stop trying to emotionally repair what continuously destroys their peace. Most people wait until they completely collapse emotionally before creating distance. But emotionally intelligent individuals learn to recognize emotional danger earlier. They understand that protecting mental clarity is not selfish. It is necessary. Because once emotional chaos enters the mind consistently, focus weakens, discipline weakens, motivation weakens. Even self-worth can slowly become distorted through constant exposure to unhealthy environments. That is why emotionally aware people become extremely protective of their energy over time. They stop allowing unlimited emotional access, stop responding to every emotional pull, stop feeling responsible for fixing everyone around them. Because they finally understand something extremely important: not every person wants peace. Some people are emotionally attached to chaos because chaos feels familiar to them. And emotionally intelligent individuals eventually realize they cannot save people who are emotionally committed to dysfunction. So instead of arguing endlessly, they withdraw quietly. Instead of forcing understanding, they become silent. Instead of emotionally chasing connection, they let distance reveal the truth naturally. And distance always reveals the truth. It reveals who genuinely values your presence and who only valued your emotional availability. It reveals who respected your peace and who only respected access to your energy. Many people do not notice your value while you are constantly available because constant access creates emotional familiarity. But silence changes perception completely. When emotionally intelligent people disappear quietly, people suddenly begin noticing the calmness they brought into environments, the emotional stability, the patience, the understanding, the grounded presence they once took for granted. Because absence exposes value. This is why emotionally intelligent people rarely beg to stay where they no longer feel emotionally aligned. They understand that forcing connection destroys dignity internally. Real connection should not require constant emotional exhaustion to survive. Real respect should not require someone to sacrifice their mental peace continuously. And once someone truly understands their own value emotionally, they stop accepting environments that constantly make them feel emotionally drained, misunderstood, or psychologically heavy. That awareness creates boundaries. Not loud boundaries, not aggressive boundaries, silent boundaries. The kind where access slowly disappears, responses become shorter, energy becomes more distant, and emotional availability quietly fades away. Most people never notice these signs early because emotionally reactive individuals usually pay attention only to visible behavior. But emotionally intelligent people communicate differently. Their silence often says more than words ever could. Because silence is observation, silence is protection, silence is emotional discipline. And emotionally aware individuals understand that not every truth needs to be spoken loudly. Some truths are understood internally without explanation. Some endings happen emotionally long before they happen physically. And some people only realize what they lost after calmness disappears from their life completely. This is also why emotionally intelligent people often become more private as they evolve. They stop exposing every goal, every emotion, every thought publicly because they understand how valuable internal peace truly is. Privacy protects focus. Privacy protects growth. Privacy protects emotional balance. Meanwhile, emotionally reactive individuals constantly seek external emotional release. They overshare, overreact, over-explain. They feel pressure to constantly express themselves because silence feels emotionally uncomfortable. But disciplined individuals become more comfortable processing life internally instead of performing every emotion externally. That internal processing creates wisdom. Because the more someone observes quietly, the more they begin understanding human nature deeply. They understand that many people speak from insecurity rather than truth. React from pain rather than logic. Seek control because internally they feel powerless. And once someone sees these emotional patterns clearly enough, they stop taking everything personally. That emotional detachment changes life completely. It creates patience, clarity, peace, and perhaps most importantly, it creates freedom from emotional dependency. The freedom to walk away quietly from what no longer protects your peace. And once someone experiences that kind of emotional freedom, returning to emotional chaos becomes almost impossible. They begin noticing how much of the world operates through emotional dependency. People stay in unhealthy environments because they fear loneliness, stay in draining relationships because they fear change, stay emotionally attached to situations that destroy their peace because they fear letting go more than they fear suffering. But emotionally intelligent people eventually understand that peace has a price. And sometimes that price is distance. Distance from negativity. Distance from emotional manipulation. Distance from people who constantly drain mental energy without giving stability in return. Most individuals avoid distance because they associate separation with loss. But emotionally intelligent individuals begin seeing distance differently. They realize distance can also be protection. Protection for focus. Protection for discipline. Protection for emotional balance. Because not every environment deserves permanent access to your mind. This is why emotionally aware individuals often become more selective with conversations over time. They stop entertaining meaningless negativity. Stop participating in emotionally exhausting arguments. Stop investing deeply into people who repeatedly create instability. Instead, they become quieter internally because awareness teaches them that emotional energy is limited. And whatever constantly drains that energy eventually weakens the mind. That is why emotionally intelligent people become careful about who they allow close emotionally. They understand that emotions spread psychologically. Anxiety spreads. Negativity spreads. Emotional instability spreads. The people around you slowly influence the way you think, feel, react, and perceive yourself over time. Most people ignore this completely. They surround themselves with emotional chaos daily and wonder why they feel mentally exhausted, distracted, emotionally unstable, or disconnected from themselves. But emotionally intelligent individuals eventually recognize that protecting peace sometimes requires separation from environments that continuously damage emotional clarity. And the moment someone truly values peace, their standards change permanently. They stop needing constant communication to feel connected, stop needing attention to feel valuable, stop needing validation to feel secure. Instead, they begin developing something much stronger: inner stability. And inner stability changes behavior quietly. Emotionally intelligent individuals stop chasing people who clearly do not value them emotionally. Stop forcing conversations that feel empty. Stop trying to emotionally explain themselves to individuals committed to misunderstanding them. Because they realize something painful but important. Not everyone deserves unlimited emotional access to you. Some people only appreciate your presence when they lose it. Some only recognize your value after your silence replaces your effort. That is why emotionally intelligent people rarely create dramatic exits. They understand that emotional maturity does not always require loud endings. Sometimes growth simply means becoming unavailable to what continuously disturbs your peace. And often, the people left behind never fully understand why the silence happened. Because emotionally intelligent people usually hide their exhaustion well. They continue showing patience long after they feel emotionally drained internally. They continue trying quietly while observing patterns nobody else notices. But once they realize nothing truly changes, they slowly begin disconnecting emotionally in silence. And when emotionally intelligent people emotionally disconnect, the energy changes immediately. The warmth becomes quieter, the effort becomes smaller, the emotional access begins fading. Not out of hate, but out of self-preservation. Because eventually, emotionally intelligent individuals understand that constantly sacrificing peace to maintain unhealthy emotional connections slowly destroys them internally. And once someone becomes aware of this deeply enough, silence becomes necessary. necessary for healing, necessary for clarity, necessary for rebuilding emotional balance. This is why many emotionally intelligent people disappear quietly while everyone else remains distracted by noise. They are no longer searching for emotional stimulation everywhere. They are searching for peace, searching for environments that strengthen their focus instead of draining it, searching for people who bring calmness instead of emotional confusion. And that search changes them permanently. They become more private, more intentional, more emotionally disciplined. They stop reacting impulsively, stop explaining themselves endlessly, stop trying to emotionally rescue everyone around them, because they finally understand that protecting your peace is not weakness, it is wisdom. And the people who understand this deeply enough eventually stop fearing silence altogether. They begin living inside it comfortably. And the moment emotionally intelligent people become comfortable inside silence, they stop depending on the outside world to feel emotionally complete. That is when real transformation begins. Because most people spend their entire lives searching externally for what should have been built internally: peace, stability, confidence, and emotional control. But emotionally aware individuals slowly stop searching outside themselves for constant reassurance. They realize that attention is temporary, validation is temporary, emotional excitement is temporary. And if your emotional state depends entirely on temporary things, your peace will always remain unstable. That realization changes priorities completely. Suddenly, protecting mental clarity becomes more important than social approval. Protecting emotional balance becomes more important than constant access. Protecting inner peace becomes more important than forcing every relationship to survive. And this is usually the stage where emotionally intelligent people begin disappearing the most. Not because they hate people, not because they became emotionally cold, but because they finally understand the cost of emotional chaos. They understand how exhausting it is to constantly explain themselves to people who never truly listen. How draining it is to remain around negativity disguised as personality. How dangerous it is to continuously sacrifice peace just to avoid disappointing others emotionally. Most people never leave these environments because emotional dependency keeps them trapped. They fear silence because silence forces them to face themselves honestly. But emotionally intelligent people eventually become strong enough to sit alone with their own thoughts without needing constant distraction. And that ability creates freedom. Freedom from emotional desperation, freedom from validation addiction, freedom from constantly needing to be understood by everyone. Once someone develops that freedom internally, their entire energy changes. They become calmer, less reactive, less emotionally available to chaos. And while emotionally reactive people may interpret this as distance, arrogance, or disinterest, the truth is much simpler. Emotionally intelligent people are protecting their peace. Because peace becomes addictive once someone truly experiences it. The peace of not reacting impulsively. The peace of no longer forcing connections. The peace of no longer carrying emotional weight that never belonged to you. And slowly, emotionally intelligent individuals begin building a life around that peace. They become intentional about who they allow close, intentional about what they consume mentally, intentional about where they place emotional energy. Because they understand that life becomes much lighter when emotional chaos no longer controls every decision. That is why emotionally intelligent people disappear quietly, not to punish others, not for attention, not to appear mysterious, but because silence often becomes the healthiest place they can exist emotionally. And in that silence, they rebuild themselves. Stronger boundaries, stronger awareness, stronger emotional discipline. While the world continues reacting emotionally to everything, they continue mastering themselves quietly in the background. And often, by the time people realize how much calmness, patience, and emotional stability they brought into their life, the emotionally intelligent person is already gone. Because some people do not leave loudly. They simply stop giving their energy where their peace is no longer safe. If you made it this far, comment "peace over chaos" below. I want to know who truly understands the psychology behind silence, emotional intelligence, and walking away quietly.